everyone, this is my social work interview, and here is Alexa. So just to start out, what's your background?
I was born here on Oahu. I grew up mostly in Los Angeles. I did my bachelor's degree at Penn State in rehabilitation and human services, which is a really specified major that only Penn State has, I'm pretty sure. Then moved back here, did my MSW at UH. I have worked with all kinds of populations. I've worked with adults in jail. I've worked with like babies. I've worked with elementary school age to high school age with like severe disabilities. I've worked in inpatient hospitalization units for mental health with youth. I worked at the Boys and Girls Club. So yeah, I've worked with a lot of different populations.
Nice. How did you get interested in social work to begin with?
There's a bug, sorry. If you see me swatting, you know, like most people in this field, I had my own history with mental health and really have always felt that I have a purpose or a calling for healing. And social work to me was the institutionalized version of healing that resonates with me the most, mostly because of the social justice aspect. So I got into social work because I have known my whole life that I wanted to be some sort of therapist.
Would you like to talk about where you currently work and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a behavioral health specialist for the Department of Education, which is a pretty cool position for a non-licensed master's level graduate. So essentially I work for the district and I work with students who have either IEP or 504 plans. In these plans, you know, that's documented with the state, you can include counseling as a service in those plans. And so what I do is I do therapy with those students. So it's the students with the highest levels of emotional and behavioral needs. It's a district position. I work at a school. Some people work at multiple schools. I'm at one school, Kalakaua Middle in Kalihi. Basically, I just spend my day doing therapy autonomously with middle schoolers in Kalihi.
Oh, in your office at the school?
In my office at the school, or sometimes I meet them in class, or sometimes I walk around with them, or sometimes I chase them down. But I like to hide out in my office.
And a bird pooped on my paper.
It's a lovely day outside.
It really is.
With ants and bugs and bird poop.
Would you prefer any like elementary, middle, or high school? Do you have a preference?
Middle school, I definitely feel like is my wheelhouse, just because it's such an intense time and it was a really hard time. But I also love working with elementary. I love working with high school students. I love non-adults. Sometimes I visit the elementary school. I'm like, oh, they're so cute. But middle school is where I feel like I'm living my purpose. Yeah.
I'm thinking about school counseling, and I always thought about middle school because I always thought that was an important time for like guidance and.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a really. It's like basically 3 years of constant transitioning with no stability, you know, and it's a really hard time and a special time. So I love working with middle schoolers. They kind of have this balance between, you know, the sass and autonomy of a high schooler with like the magic, like universal intuition of youth. So it's I love them. Like I love hanging with them. Like. You know, it's seriously the best part is just them. They're awesome. They're funny. They teach me a lot. Yeah, so I just get to talk to them is the best part.
Are there any particular memorable moments you've had so far working as a behavioral health
Oh
specialist?
gosh. I have had a lot. You know, in social work, sometimes they're few and far between, but I have had some aha moments. You know, I have some students where it's not really clear why they need counseling. So I had this one student, I was working with him for like 6 weeks, and just trying to build rapport and talking story with him and getting to know him. He likes music, I like music, you know, just not really sure what to do and just doing some basic stuff. And then one day I had him identify like negative cognitions, right? So negative self-talk that we have. And the one that he wanted to talk about was, I can't get what I want. So we started talking about that, and I said, you know, what is it that you can't get? And he said food, and told me that, you know, his doctor put him on a diet, so he can't have certain foods. And I was like, I feel you, man, that sucks. But then all of a sudden, later, spilled this whole story of how basically this kid has had a crazy traumatic life. He's moved like foster houses and schools like 8 times, and all this like all of a sudden starts sharing. And he told me that one of the foster homes he was in never had food to eat, right? So it kind of added this other dimension of this, you know, oh, I can't get the food that I want, which already sucks. But, you know, as he shared, it kind of showed like a deeper level to it. So that was a very cool moment, because I didn't know that he trusted me that much. But it goes to, with kids, the relationship is the most important thing.
How do you sort of get students to open up to you, or how do you form those relationships?
The main way that I do that is letting them know that I 100% will always respect their autonomy, because middle school, a lot of time they don't have autonomy, they don't have choice. So I tell them from the very beginning, like, you have 100% choice over everything. If I call you out of class and you don't want to come, you don't have to come. If I say, let's do this, you don't want to do it, like, we're not going to do it. You know, just really trying to instill that sense of choice and autonomy, so that they don't feel like coming to me is like, oh, I'm going to be forced to talk about something, I'm going to be forced to do something I don't want to do. Letting them know, like, you have the right to make these choices, and if you don't want to come to me, then you don't have to. Like, it's your life. And sometimes it blows up in my face when I have an activity I'm stoked to do, and a student's like, Miss Alexa, you said we don't have to do something if we don't want to. And I'm like, all right, well, you're right. Like, I did. So, but that's I think my biggest method is just letting them know that I will always honor their choices.
Would you say most of the students that you do see want to come see you though?
It's a good mix. You know, there's like a subset of kids that are just like authentically like, oh, I'm excited for our session today. And then there are kids that just like fluctuate back and forth, like, fuck you, bitch, I'm not talking to you today. And then like, still going?
We're back.
Sorry, it was my swearing that knocked it over. You know, but then another day they'll come to my office crying. So, yeah, definitely have had students that are like, oh God, I hate coming here. I'm like, well, that makes me feel great. But you can't take it personally. So it's a very big mix, but I don't think that, I think for the most part they think I'm chill. At least that's what I hope.
How do you separate work from your own life?
It's hard. I would say about 90% of the time I do a pretty good job of it, because I have a lot of other things going on in my life. I have a healthy meditation and yoga practice. I read a lot, and I have just a lot of hobbies that I'm really, really equally passionate about that, you know, I can focus my energy on. But once in a while there will be something that just really, I just can't get past it. And it's hard when that happens. You know, I see some gnarly stuff I do. And so there are days where I just can't, you know, so, and that's okay.
Do you work with other people around, like the students lives, like the teachers and parents, or is it mainly just work
It
with the students?
depends, you know. I try.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a part of their care team, right? So I have to interact with the teachers a lot, like to get them to do assessments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I try to consult with them about the interventions they should be doing and providing accommodations. Most of them don't have a great attitude with me. Parents, it's either their crazy helicopter parent or they're just cannot even get in contact with them.
So what made you decide to get a degree in social work instead of counseling degree or like education degree?
The reason why I chose social work over like counseling psych or something like that is because other counseling majors tend to focus just on therapy, and social work, a big part of it is social justice, and social justice is huge to me. And so for me, the clinical counseling aspect is just one part of social work, as opposed to some of the other fields, like this is a clinical counseling field. Social work, clinical counseling is one part of it that you can do. There's also macro level stuff. There's also policy. There's also just social justice and activism and feminism and all these things that are part of social work that to me resonated more than just focusing on the micro level stuff.
Would you have any advice for anyone thinking about going into maybe behavioral health specialist or the school system?
Any advice? That is a good question. My advice would be follow like your code of ethics in alignment with the social work code of ethics. But you may sometimes be working with people that don't have a code of ethics, personally or professionally. So just fight for the kids and never forget the person and environment. And just remember that everything they do is coming from somewhere, and they're children, and it's, somebody had a responsibility to help them develop appropriate relationships and connections with the world, and they failed them. And so it's, you have an opportunity to heal some of that or alleviate some of that. Don't be another person telling them that they're bad.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Well, thank you, social work students, for listening and watching me swat bugs. And if you are considering a master's in any kind of counseling field, definitely do social work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's the end of my social work interview project. It was really fun interviewing Alexa. I never really knew what a behavioral health specialist was. One of the biggest takeaways I got from this project was the importance of person and environment theory. She gave so many examples of why that's so important to keep in the back of your mind whenever helping anyone. Be useful for any field that you go into. For me personally, I'm thinking about going into school counseling for middle schoolers, so everything Alexa said was definitely useful to my future professional endeavors. When it comes to working with students, it's really all about supporting them and their needs, and I think Alexa really highlighted that. There's a lot of other things I wish I could include in this video, but if I did, it would probably be super long. So I'll just wrap it up by saying this was a really fun project. I'm glad I got to interview someone like Alexa, who's such an advocate for students and plays such a huge role in the lives of students. So, yeah.